If you marry, there's about a 56% chance that your marriage will end in divorce.
The moment you decide to divorce, everything changes. One wrong move can cost you your peace of mind, your money, and even your future. But with the right first steps, you can take control before chaos takes control of you. Because here's the truth. Divorce isn't just a legal process. It's an emotional, financial, and personal storm that can hit all at once. The decision may be final, but what comes next is critical. And it starts with one thing most people overlook: facing the emotional shock head on. The first thing almost nobody prepares for is the emotional crash that comes right after the decision. Even if you've been thinking about it for months, the moment it becomes real, when you finally say the words or admit them to yourself, it hits like a tidal wave. Your chest tightens, your mind races, and every memory of your relationship suddenly feels louder. This is a shock, and it's completely normal. Divorce is the unraveling of a shared life, and with it comes fear, sadness, guilt, anger, and sometimes even relief, all colliding at once. It's messy and it can feel paralyzing. Why does this matter? Because the decisions you make in this fragile window can shape the entire process. If you rush to sign something, lash out in anger, or make promises just to keep the peace, you may regret it later. The smartest first move isn't paperwork, it's awareness. Here's how. Start by naming what you feel. Say it out loud or write it down. I'm scared, I'm furious, I feel free. When you label emotions, you create distance. You're not drowning in them anymore, you're steering through them. That small act helps you respond instead of react. And here's something to remember. Emotions will come in waves. You may feel relief one morning and devastation by lunch. That doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're human. Give yourself permission to ride those waves without making big choices in the middle of them. Because once you've acknowledged the storm inside you, you'll have the clarity to move to the next step, protecting your personal space and your digital life before anyone else tries to control them. After stabilizing your emotions, the next step is protection, your personal space and your digital life. Divorce isn't just about dividing assets, it's about information, and information is power. If you don't secure yours early, you could find yourself blindsided. Start with your digital footprint. How many accounts do you still share? Email, cloud storage, streaming services, even shopping apps. Update every password, make them unique, and keep them private. It may feel overcautious, but the last thing you want is someone scrolling through your private messages or quietly moving money from shared accounts. Speaking of money, look at your financial access points. If you share bank accounts or credit cards, assume both of you have full access right now. And when emotions rise, people act out. Protect yourself by opening your own checking account if you haven't already, and redirecting income there as soon as it's legally safe. Documentation is another overlooked step. Gather and copy important records, tax returns, mortgage papers, insurance policies, property deeds. Keep them in a safe place, outside your home, if necessary. These documents often disappear when things get tense, and you'll need them later. Don't ignore the physical side either. Secure passports, birth certificates, IDs, and any essential paperwork for your children. Small details like this can save you enormous stress. Remember, this isn't about preparing for war. It's about creating stability. The more control you have over your information, the less vulnerable you'll be to surprises. And once you've locked down your privacy and your essentials, the next critical step is legal, knowing your rights before you sign, say, or agree to anything. Once your personal and digital life is secure, the next move is clear. Get legal guidance. Too many people delay this step, thinking they'll only need a lawyer if things turn ugly. The truth, by the time conflict explodes, the damage is already done. Divorce is not just emotional, it's a legal process that determines your money, your property, your rights as a parent. Even your future lifestyle, walking into that blind, is like playing a high-stakes game without knowing the rules. You wouldn't step onto a field without a playbook. This is no different. Start with research. Don't settle on the first name you Google. Book consultations with more than one attorney. Ask about different approaches: litigation, mediation, collaborative divorce. Each has its own costs, timelines, and levels of conflict. The best path for you depends on your specific situation. And here's a golden rule. Never sign or verbally agree to anything without legal advice. Even informal promises made in the heat of the moment can come back to haunt you. Your spouse may push for quick deals to keep things easy, but easy today could mean costly tomorrow. Also, learn your rights right away. Some jurisdictions count the official date of separation the moment you announce it. That detail alone can affect property division or support payments. A lawyer can explain these hidden rules before they catch you off guard. Legal guidance isn't about starting a fight. It's about knowing where you stand so you can move with confidence. And once you have that anchor in place, it's time to make sure you don't walk this road alone. That means building your emotional and social support system. Legal clarity is vital, but it won't carry you through the long nights and tough mornings. Divorce isn't just a legal event, it's an emotional marathon. And without the right support system, even the strongest person can crumble under the weight. Start by choosing your inner circle wisely. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your struggle. Share with a few people you truly trust, the ones who will listen without judgment and remind you of your strength when you forget it yourself. Oversharing can add chaos. Precision matters here. Then invest in professional support. A therapist or counselor isn't just for people in crisis. They're a lifeline. They help you process the storm in your head, so you don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. And if children are involved, therapy for them is just as crucial. It creates space for their voices to be heard without putting the burden on you. Community matters too. Online or in-person support groups connect you with people who've walked this road before. They understand the blind spots, the traps, and the roller coaster emotions. Sometimes just hearing someone say, "I've been where you are and I made it through," can give you the courage to keep going. Finally, don't forget the basics. Divorce can wreck routines, but sleep, exercise, and proper meals are not luxuries. They're survival tools. Small habits anchor you when everything else feels unstable. Because when your support system is strong, you're harder to shake, and with your emotions grounded, your space secured, your rights clear, and your circle around you, you're ready to face the next battlefield, your finances. Once your emotions are steady, your space is protected, your rights are clear, and your finances are mapped, the next question is this: what do you actually want your life to look like after divorce? Because if you don't define that for yourself, someone else, your ex, the court, or even circumstance will do it for you. Start with objectives. These are the outcomes you want, both short-term and long-term. Short-term could be simple: a stable place to live, a clear custody routine for the kids, or a way to cover your bills without panic. Long-term objectives might be bigger: owning your own home, starting fresh in a new city, or rebuilding your career. The point is clarity. When you know your goals, every decision you make in this process can be tested against them. Does it bring you closer or pull you farther away? Now, boundaries. Divorce has a way of blurring lines, late night texts, heated arguments, unexpected drop-ins. Boundaries are how you take back control. Decide what communication is acceptable and what isn't. Maybe it's only by email, maybe only through your lawyer. If kids are involved, boundaries may also mean establishing clear schedules and sticking to them. And don't forget personal boundaries, what you will no longer tolerate and how you're spoken to, treated, or pressured. Boundaries aren't about punishing your spouse. They're about protecting your peace and your progress. Here's the truth. Without objectives and boundaries, divorce can feel like drifting in a storm. With them, you're steering the ship, not clinging to the wreckage. And once you've drawn that line in the sand, you're ready for the next step. Because no matter how prepared you are, divorce has one guarantee: pushback. And knowing how to handle it can make or break your journey. No matter how calm or reasonable things feel right now, divorce has a way of bringing out sides of people you've never seen before. And if you're not prepared for pushback, those surprises can knock you off balance. Here's the reality. When someone feels like they're losing control, whether it's over money, kids, or even just pride, they may lash out. Maybe it's sudden anger, maybe it's threats, maybe it's guilt trips that make you question your decision. Some partners get defensive, others get manipulative, and a few will even try to stall the process by refusing to cooperate. The key is not to match their chaos. Expect pushback, but don't absorb it. That means documenting everything: texts, emails, voicemails. If communication turns hostile, keep records. If promises are broken, write them down. These details can protect you legally and emotionally when the story suddenly changes. It also means leaning on your support system and legal team instead of reacting in the heat of the moment. When pushback comes, you don't need to fire back. You need to redirect it through the structures you've already put in place. And here's something powerful to remember. Sometimes pushback is designed to break you down emotionally, not win legally. If you know that in advance, you won't take the bait. You'll see it for what it is, a reaction to losing control. Divorce isn't just about the split, it's about resilience. And the more prepared you are for the unexpected, the less power those shocks will have over you. Because at the end of the day, this isn't only about surviving divorce, it's about building the next chapter of your life. And that's where we close this journey. You've made the hardest decision, divorce, but deciding is only the beginning. What you do right after that choice can either set you up for stability or trap you in years of stress and regret. Let's take a moment to connect the steps we've walked through together. First, you acknowledge the emotional shock, that wave of feelings. Fear, anger, sadness, even relief wasn't weakness. It was the natural human response to the end of a chapter. By naming those emotions instead of drowning in them, you created the first layer of control. Then you secured your personal space and your digital life, because protecting your privacy and your information isn't paranoia, it's power. It ensures you're not blindsided by surprises in a moment when stability is everything. From there, you sought legal guidance, not to start a fight, but to understand the rules of the game before stepping onto the field. That knowledge is your anchor. It stops you from making promises or mistakes you can't undo. Next, you built a support system. Friends, family, therapy, community, the people and practices that remind you you're not alone. Divorce isolates, but support reconnects. You mapped your finances and prevented damage. You gathered records, protected assets, and sketched a survival budget. Because money is not just numbers, it's freedom, and freedom is what you're fighting to reclaim. But then you defined your objectives and boundaries. You drew a line in the sand, what you want, what you won't tolerate, and what your future should look like. Boundaries protect your peace, and objectives give you direction. And finally, you prepared for pushback, because pushback will come. People lash out when they lose control, but you now know that doesn't have to knock you down. You've built the tools to respond with strength instead of reaction. So here's the bigger truth. Divorce isn't only an ending, it's the first page of a brand new chapter. And yes, it's painful, unpredictable, and often messy, but it's also a chance to rebuild, to choose differently, to create a life that's not about compromise with someone else's dreams, but about finally living your own. And maybe that's the question worth sitting with. If divorce is the closing of one book, what story are you ready to write next? Because what happens from here doesn't have to be defined by fear or regret. It can be defined by growth, resilience, and freedom. And it all starts with the first steps you take after making the decision. If this helped you see the path forward a little clearer, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Because the end of one journey is only the beginning of another, and you don't have to walk it alone.